uh, the first thing they said is, "You want to do anything with the money?" And I said, "Well, I really don't." And before I could even say anything, one of their crew guys said, "We got $743,500."
Both cars pre-staged now for the richest final round in the history of organized drag racing. Here we go. Monster wheel stand for Cisco. Swain is 004. Bill Swain of Iona, Michigan. No, it goes to Cisco.
In this SFG presentation, you'll learn how Steve Cisco won the biggest payday in drag racing history as he details how he won the 2020 JAGS SFG $1.1 million race. This interview goes to show that things don't have to be perfect to win big at SFG. You've just got to be in it to win it.
Starting out as a child, just basically going to track with my father throughout the, I was born in '77, so through the '80s, it was go to the track with my father, and it was something that I was always hooked on with noise and the smell in a car. So come 17, I got my driver's license, and that Friday I went to the racetrack and basically raced 4 or 5 days a week for 20 years. And now 26 years later, I just pick and choose which ones I want. And thankfully, after last year, I could just pick and choose the big ones. I could just go to wherever I want to go. The racing's always been in my blood, so it's something I grew up with. I don't know what I would do without it. And I miss so many things family-wise because of racing. So there's 2 separate families, so I don't know where I'd be without racing. Anthony is somebody I met back in, I think the first year I went to Moroso. I graduated high school in '94, so I think the first year I went to Moroso in Florida for the 2 weeks was in '95. And I went there with Jim Harrington, which was real good friends with Anthony. So that first year, like I said, I'm 17 or 18 at that time, and I met everybody that I used to read about in the National Dragster and the magazines, growing up. Harrington was friends with all of them. So the first day I'm at Moroso, I became friends with Jed Coughlin and Anthony and Elrod and LeBoost, and like everybody that I've read about became my instant friends. So the next season, I believe the next year when we went back to Florida, the first year I went to Florida, Harrington drove my car. I didn't race. The second year he had a drag racing school, and the gentleman that he was partners with had 2 cars, and he offered me to drive one of them it was 3 weeks back then. It was Orlando, Bradenton, and Moroso. And I drove the dragster at the time, which was an 830 car, which was fast. And that was how, I met all the big guys. But the second or third year, Anthony had a car sitting at the trailer, and I wasn't racing. And Harrington just told me, he's like, "Why don't you just let Steve jump in the car?" And at the time, it was like an 80 790 car, which was fast. And Anthony barely knew me other than going, a couple times at the track with Harrington. And he put me in his 80 dragster with no time runs. And I think I went 3 or 4 rounds. And after that, we've always been friends through the racing at the track. But as I got older, Anthony would ask me if I would drive the certain cars at some of the big races that he couldn't go to. So it's one of them things for the last probably 10 years. Anthony would call me and ask me, and he knows I love the Nova. Once he asked me to drive a car at the Million one year when we were there because he had to leave. And he said, "Hey, before I go, you want to drive my dragster? I have an entry." And I said, "I'll drive it, but I'd rather drive that Chevy too." And he's like, "Oh, really? Because LeBoost don't want to drive it. I'm sure he'll drive the dragster." And that's how I got hooked up with the Chevy 2. So I feel like the Chevy 2 for the last 5 years has been mine, kind of. There's certain people that drive it, but I feel like every big race there is, I get to drive it. So it's a fun car to drive. It does wheelies and it's fairly good most of the time. And now it's a proven winner. So hopefully he never gets rid of it. Basically, anytime you stage up first round for any of the so-called $1 million races or $500,000 races, but this one was a guaranteed over $1 million. So I never get nervous in a race car, but you know what you're racing for. But again, it's first round. There is a re-entry, not that you want to spend that extra money, but if you do screw up or get beat first round, you have a chance to get back in. And plus I have 2 entries, so I never feel pressure, but it's one of them things where it is a lot of money at stake, and it's a lot of, $650 is a lot of money to pull out of your pocket to another run to get back in a race. So there's pressure, but there's that little bit in the back of your mind knowing that you have a safety net if you need it. But it was one of them things. I'm never nervous getting to stage the car or anything. So the race played out kind of like we expected it, or was hoping for it to play out. And I wasn't going to complain with the outcome that I got. I don't remember, obviously, like I said, this first round was, I think, 2 days prior to our second round to finish this race. But I do remember racing him because I think I ran him 3 times in that week with the different cars and different entries. But I remember looking to see what he dialed compared to what it was the last time we raced. And I kind of used that, and I'm pretty sure that I was probably dialed a couple soft. And
Steve Hughes, right side. Steve Cisco, left side. 621 in the left, 525 in the right. Cisco, 17 dead, 5 for the win in the left. Steve Hughes in the right. Tardy and under, no good.
Yeah, so if I went 21, I was probably on I was probably shooting for like a 18 area, because I believe the thing went a 16 or 17, 18 or 19 pretty much every day up until that point. And yeah, it was just one of them where I felt like I hit the tree right. I believe the finish line was close, and I think I was dead on, but he was late and under to make it look good. Yeah, so pulling in for second round, I believe I lost already with the Camaro. So I'm pretty sure that was the Camaro was first. So this going in second round is basically my last draw. If I lose, I'm done. I had a car that it's a 580 car. I believe that was a Roadster also, Camaro Roadster. And I was dialed 620, which again, I'm probably in my mind thinking I could go an 18. That's in my head. And obviously it's 2 days, well, we raced the day before, but it is 2 days later than the first round. And on my ticket that I'm looking at here, it says spun bad.
Steve Cisco and Alex Miller. Miller dialed 580, Cisco dialed 620. Both cars in pre-stage spot as Cisco now in, Miller now in. Red light start for Alex Miller, and he didn't miss it by a whole lot. .0019 red, 579.1 for Miller after the red light. Steve Cisco gets a free pass, 624.0 on that 620 dial.
Bad, and I'm lucky. This is the only reason why I won any rounds. This guy's 1 red to me, and he runs 1 under his dial. I'm 17 on the tree, which is probably I was probably set up 10 or 12. But it looks like I added 3 thou also that round for that run. But it says it spun bad, and I go 4 over wide open. I only went 108. So I'm 4 over and I'm down 1 mile an hour. And the 60 foot's only 1 off, but it felt bad in the car, and I feel like that was my lucky round. And here I am thinking I'm going to be on the brakes and dump this guy anyway. So if he's 40 on the tree, I'm losing, or anything better most likely. But it was just a lucky round, and we'll get into, I could explain later on what was going on, but that round I really thought I spun the tires, and I went 624.0 wide open, and like I said, I'm at least 500 or 600 slower than I expected to be. Yeah, like I said, he red lighted, so there was nothing to it. I made a time run, and basically, luckily, I should have been loading up. I should have been done with the weekend by then. Well, I'm not a weather guy. I don't really use a weather station, so I go by feel and make sure you could run what you dial. But Labuse obviously is kind of like a teammate because I'm driving a car. It's not that I'm asking him questions, but in between I'll ask him because they're on gas, and I'll just ask him what he thinks, and he'll give me, what he believes. So we both agreed that we didn't think there was much difference weather-wise. It looks like it's 12 in the afternoon to 2:40, so 2.5 hours. It doesn't look like there's much difference, but in my mind, I still think I thought I spun the tires. I'm going to cover it. I remember I raised the wheelie bars up a little bit because I felt maybe that when it left that it got on the wheelie bars and it started to shake the tire. So I raised the wheelie bars, I loosened up the shocks in the front a little bit, and I dialed up 100th, and I remember just saying to myself, the slowest I just went was a 24. There's no way I could run that again. I have to go fast. But I said, let me just dial up 100th and hope we could run under. And I believe this was a Roadster also, some full body Roadster. And he was dialed 590, so it was a good draw with a 620 car in my, 3/10. And
Rockwell, right side of the racetrack, 595 dial. Cisco dialed 625. And Brian Rockwell in this Roadster. High 5-second car is in. We move into the door slammer category, the door car category here. Champs Performance, round number 3. Nice wheels up launch for Cisco. A little bit more height and distance than we've seen out of that car previously. And he wins the round with style. 6.26.0 on a 25 dial, taking 3 thou at the stripe and standing that baby up like a super stalker, leaving the starting line. 16 on the tree. Nice job by Cisco. Rockwell goes 594.7, had a 32 light, and got to the finish line second.
And same thing, it looks like I rolled 2 thou out of the box, and I was a thou better on a tree. I was 16, so I'm probably still off a couple hundredths, or a couple thousandths than what I'm expecting. And I still, on my ticket, I still have that it spun the tire I have written on here. But I'm looking at the other ticket, I'm 5 thou slow in 60, but I'm 100th faster at the 330. And I have on the ticket that I could go with 23. And basically it looks like I went down there and killed 4 mile an hour. I got there 3 thou. And that was the plan, was to basically be aggressive, hit the tree. And like I said, I don't know what I could dial. So either get aggressive, and if I don't think I kill enough, you're going to have to drop the guy. If I dropped him, I don't lose either anyway, because it looks like he's 32 and 3 thou under. So if I screw up the finish line, I'm probably still getting away with it. But it looks like a good run. I'm 16, 1 over with a 0, taking 3 thou, and I'm going 2 under. So on paper, that looks perfect. But in my mind, I still feel like I should be going faster than that. So it looks like it's from 240. We're at 549, so call it another 3 hours. And it's 4th round. It's the guy's last name is Jensen. And I believe it's Malibu or Chevelle from Michigan area. He's the first person I raced that I not that I know him, but I know the car, and I know that he either won or runnered up one of the Mid-Michigan races a couple years ago, and that's why I knew his name. So I knew he was going to be somebody that's not going to be a cakewalk, but the same thing. Last round, I think I could go to the 23. It looks like I dialed up to a 27. According to the delay numbers, it looks like I rolled another 2 thou out from the 16 and came up 14. So I got a 1 thou window the first couple rounds. And on my ticket, I got WTF with an arrow at the 60 foot.
Steve Cisco on the left, trying to tune him out. 627 to dial for the deuce. Double enter dragsters, lanes 1 and 2, come on down. Double enter dragsters, lanes 1 and 2. Come on down, Cisco on the left, 14 on the tree, gets the win in the Nova. 29 on the 27. Taking 11th thou, finish line stripe for the win, 611 by Jensen. Cruising through on a 609 dial. Trailing across the finish line, and Cisco moves to round number 5.
So I remember that round when it left, it felt bad, and it felt like it didn't pick the wheels up as high. It just felt like a real crappy run. And obviously in my mind, I think I'm holding enough, so I'm still confident that I could get there, but I was able to lift. And same thing, I was 14, took 11th thou, and wound up going 2 over, and looks like I could have gone to 25 that run, so I was going 2 under again. But the funny part there is the 330 is down over 200s. So it did leave bad and it carried it through, but I was holding enough that luckily it looks like he was misdialed, because he was 23 on a tree and he's 2 over, and it looks like he may have been wide open. He may have killed a couple thou, but yeah, that's another one. If he's not putting a 40 package up, I might not get by with that, that kind of deal. So basically the way all the races have gone so far is I've been teen and I've treated everybody by 1.5 or 2 hundredths. And well, here was 9 thou, but I feel like it was just one of them things where you always wish you could, man, how come I never get the guys that are 30? And it seems like this whole race I had every one of them, like for years of getting tormented by that, I got them all back in 1 week, 1 day for me. So that was a good feeling, knowing now we're getting close to money. You know what I mean? Like, you just win 4th round, you're thinking probably if you make it the 6th or 7th round, you're probably going to be, race will be paused and people will be talking big money. So I was starting to get excited at that point, but still not real happy with the car. But it actually made me made me feel like I was earning it. So it was more fun than just flat footing it and wind light coming on. I don't know if you've ever raced anything that does like a wheel stand like that or anything, but normally when you have a good car and you're on a wheel stand car where you're only on the back wheels and it starts to, I don't want to say spin. Obviously, if you blow the tires up, you feel it. But when it's on the verge, sometimes you'll just feel like your ass in the seat. You'll just get a vibration. And that's what I was feeling every round. So I'm thinking that I'm not spinning, but I feel like I'm losing some in 60 foot. So that first couple rounds, I messed with the wheelie bars. I loosened the front shocks up. I think I tightened the back shocks. Then I loosened the back shocks. I was just trying stuff. But this next round is where, after that run, I came back to the trailer and I'm like, all right, I don't deserve to be beating anybody. Not that I don't deserve it, but I'm like, I need a car that's better than this. I'm going to lose because of this car. And that's when I came back for the next round. And I basically got to the trailer after 4th round. And Labousse came, he was done racing already. He came over to the trailer, and I already had the back of the car jacked up. And he said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I think these tires are junk. Like, go over to Mickey Thompson, see if we get new tires." Even though these tires, I believe, were brand new for that week. And he went over, and they said they didn't have any more of that size tire. But I actually spoke to him, the Mickey Thompson guy, later down the road, and he did have it, but he knew they were new tires, and he said he wasn't going to let us change the tires. So he told John, take some air out of the tires, do a shorter burnout, don't overheat them. So in the meantime, John is under there and he's rolling it, looking for wear holes in the tires. And he thinks the rear end feels funny when he's rolling the tires by hand, but he doesn't say anything to me. So the craziest thing, I said, well, if we can't put tires on this car and it doesn't feel good, the 60 foot's not right. I said, I need to do something. I said, do we have any weight in the trailer? And he's like, yeah, I got these lead pucks. And he had a couple of them bolted together, and we guessed that they were like 57 pounds is what we were thinking they were. And I said, well, screw it, put them in the trunk. So they were 2 chunks. We put them behind each battery on each side of the car. And I went up for 5th round, so which is crazy. I even asked him afterwards, like, well, what made you think, like, to allow me to put 50 pounds in the trunk of the car? But he just told me he felt like that, that's what I wanted to do, and that was going to be the best scenario if that's where my head was. But that's what we did. I put 50 pounds in the trunk, and we said, well, I know if it was quarter mile, we'd call that about 500ths in ET. I said in the 8th, it's probably a little less. So when we pull into round 5, I have a guy who is a Camaro, I believe, or Firebird. He's from North Carolina, one of the Thomas family. But he's a 560 car. So it's not the best draw for me, but it's not horrible either. And it looks like I dialed up to a 31 from the 27, where I was just going to 25. And I think we were going to say, let's say at the most, we're going to add 400 pounds of weight, or 400ths. and I still should be running under. I said, but I'll tell you how it feels when it leaves. It's going to leave good. Well, it left that time, and it's 60-footed with the back wheels. It felt like it went out. It felt like it went 60 feet on the back wheel, or 80 feet on the back wheels that time. And it was
Steve Cisco's Chevy Deuce now, the New Jersey-based runner. Here on the left-hand side, and Eric Thomas, his first-gen Camaro on the right. 566 for Eric Cisco's Chevy Deuce. Off and running on a 631. Be up to Eric, hold his concentration, focus on the tree, cut a light, run the number, chase him down. Oh, so simple to do, or at least to say, but hard to do. Cisco off and running at the stripe, getting the win. 631, dead 2 on a dial with 17 on the tree. Taking 7th thou package, or taking 7th thou stripe with a 19 pack.
I pulled 3 thou out of the box, but I lost 3 thou. I was 17 on a tree, but I believe some of that could have been with the weight, because the car was slower. And the strangest thing is that I only lost, the last run was a bad run, but it's 300 slower than the 23. I'm on a 26 there with the weight in the trunk. So in my mind, I just fixed the car. Like it didn't feel bad that run. And I'm like, that was all I needed was extra weight. So now I got a clear head. And that just race worked out perfect because, like I said, I'm 17, the guy's 33, and I got to get aggressive at the finish line, and I take 7th thou, and I go dead on with a 2, and I kill 7 mile an hour doing it. So I killed 500s, it shows, on the break, and to be dead on 2. So I'm 19 package, and he's 33 and 6 thou under. So that's another one that I felt like I earned it. Like I drove that perfect, and the thing actually stayed good after that. It moved a couple thousands here and there, but going back, I remember it being bad, but I didn't trust it for the rest of the race. But really looking at these tickets, I looked at them before I got on with you, and from here on out, it really wasn't horrible at all. But I still never would have trusted it. But yeah, so that was the win round 5. So that was a good smile on my face, knowing that the next round is probably going to be the round where they start talking money. Yeah, so now I'm going in. I feel like the car is fixed. It was a lot of fun to drive that run. And round 6, it looks like we were just coming off of what I thought was a 26. I'm dialed at 29. And the guy I'm running is dialed 571. I believe his last name is Williamson, but I believe this was the kid that ran off the top and bottom with a 57 Chevy. Yeah, and he broke, and I think the round before this, he jumped in the Folks Cobalt. But I believe that was only his second run in the car. Like I said, that's a perfect draw for me too, because I'm racing a guy who I don't think has ever driven the car before. I didn't know who he was, and I said, I know the Folk family, and I said, I don't think this guy is a driver for them. So in my mind, I'm thinking this guy just jumped in this car. He doesn't know anything about it. There's a good chance that he's not going to put a killer run next to me.
Brett Williamson on the right-hand side of the drag strip. This is a guy that has run a 57 Chevrolet for days. Well, he finally broke the 57, and now he's in this Cobalt over here, and he's adjusted to it pretty well. He's now dialed 571. Steve Cisco, left side, dial 629. You can swap cars during the race. You just have to stay in the same category. You can't go from a dragster to a door car to dragster. But if you have a door car that breaks, you can get in another one, and that's exactly what Williamson did. He won the last round he was in this car, but it wasn't against Steve Cisco, who has been absolutely destroying everybody that's rolled up next to him today. Cisco leaves on the bumper, bounds his way down the racetrack, and Steve Cisco, 15 light and a win light, 631.6, 629 dial. Cisco took 11th out for himself across the finish line stripe, and Brett Williamson, in a car he was highly unfamiliar with, still put in a pretty stout lap. The only thing cost him on that one was the reaction time, and that's just acclimating himself to the car and didn't have time to get her done.
And it looks like I left the box alone from that 17, where in my mind, I feel like I should be in the high O's now, but with the weight, I feel like I might have lost some. So I left the box alone and I come up 15 on a tree. And it's 60 foots with the back wheels again, because it went 145, 60 foot. And I take 11th thou. I'm only 100 miles an hour. And like I said, I got all the right guys. He was 55 on the tree and 2 thou under. So, like I said, I'm 15, get there 11th thou, and I'm 2 over. And on my ticket, I say it's going 627. Now here it is. I just won 6th round. The next round is going to be a split where they start chopping money, and I feel like I got a good car now. I feel like it's fixed. Last 2 runs were pretty good. It went 4 flat with a 2 and 4010, so it slowed down 8th out to 330. But I'm happy with that compared to what I was dealing with all day up until that point. And yeah, so I get back to the trailer, just a little bit of fuel or whatever we do, and at this point they call us back to the lanes, and then we sit there for a while. I remember pulling in the lanes for the so-called split round, and it's like, for 20 years I've been going to the other $1 million races, and that is like where you want to be. Not only you want to win one, like you want to be in the final because you've been there and you've watched them and you know how that feels, and like you get goosebumps just thinking about other people in that position. So I just got them now talking about it. But the like you always want to be that guy. So get to the split round is like, that's the start of it. Like you need to get to that point, and that's where you want to be. So it was just one of them things when they kind of huddled up the drivers and a couple crew guys to talk about money, and I didn't even get involved because everybody was talking about money. I know that Swain had a buy, so he was going to get a little bit extra for having a free run that round. And in my mind, I'm like, I got too many things to think about. Like, I'm worried about what I'm dialing. I got to think about, if the car feels like this is how fast I could go. If it doesn't feel like this is what I could go. So if it does this, I got to kill this much. If it does this, I got to kill this much. Like, so I really didn't get involved with the whole talking with it. I just stood around, and once they agreed on a number, they asked, and everybody raised their hands, and we were good to go. So at that point, I don't know if it was like 12-5 or something I thought they got. So like I said, that's still a good amount of money to lose a race. Not that you're planning on losing, but you want to, you got to that point, it's a little bit of a safety net. You got some money to go with. And it looks like, I think this guy may have been on the buy run the run before. It was like a 90s Thunderbird, blue and black Thunderbird. And he's dial 550. So again, it's obviously a little slower, would have been a better draw for me. But
as mentioned, Cisco's car should leave with the wheels up for about the first 100 feet. Kessler's car does nothing of the sort. Been very consistent, running right around 550 to 552 all day long. There's the wheels up launch. There's the wheels down launch. Reaction time for Steve Cisco in the wheel stand. 001, 30 on a 28, gets him a win light. Jeremy Kessler pushed it hard at the finish line, took 11th thou and broke out, running 549.8 on a 551 dial-in, so there will be no buy run for Kessler. Steve Cisco is going on to the next round.
But I only lost 3 thou at the 330, and I'm 001. I'm 2 over, but I drop him. I drop 4 mile an hour late, and he's 23, and he runs 2 under. He got there 11th thou. And I remember that round, and then in the semis were my 2 scary rounds. They're the rounds where I drop the guys off and you cross your fingers and hope, and so those were the 2 scary rounds that I had. But here it looks like it was, again, I was dialed at 28 against this guy. He's faster. I think the car's fairly good at this point. And on my ticket, it says, it looks like I wrote down 627. So I probably was going somewhere in the 27. Going in the 8th round, looked like I went in the right lane for the buy. I didn't touch the delay box, but I remember coming out of the burnout. It was the first time I was in the right lane, and it was real dark over there. And it was hard for me to stage. It felt like I was in a black hole.
Steve Cisco, on the other hand, is on the bye. You will take that. 620. Fireworks going off over the tree line. Cisco's pre-staged, fully staged. 009 red with the wheels up and the headlights on. That's even cooler. And he's going to lift early. Steve Cisco clicks it off, goes 668.2 at 81 miles an hour into the Michigan night.
I was 009, and it looks like I lost another 3 thou. So I have my ticket. I was going to 28. So that was just a free run. It just basically, my light was decent. I probably would have been dialed, being that I went at 27 and I felt the car was good. I probably would have been dialed at 28 or 9 anyway. So that probably would have been a good run if I was 009. I might have been able to beat somebody with that anyway. But obviously, a buy run at eighth round, I'm pretty sure guaranteed me like 50 grand or something. I'm pretty sure that by that buy run, I think gives me, I think the next round, if you lost, you got $50,000. So that buy run was a pretty sweet buy run. You know, that buy run was worth more than, you know, winning a 25 grand race, you know, that kind of feeling. The money part of it never, I knew we raced for a lot of money, but I never really thought about it. Like, I didn't plan on losing, you know, that kind of thing. So I got it. It was one of the most, obviously the money is like winning that kind of money at the end and being the biggest race of all time. That's an awesome feeling, but it was one of the most like enjoyable and fun and like everything I did that day. Like I had fun racing again, where in the last couple of years I didn't have fun. And like that, I was enjoying myself regardless of what the money was. Like I'm driving a car like I was 17 again. That wasn't great. I felt like I was earning the rounds. Everybody I was racing, I was treating by just a little bit. Like everything was working out right. That I'd come back to the trailer, I'd smile, I'd tell my wife, "Dude, just be all right, one more person," and we were just knocking them off one at a time. And kind of where I park is like, I'm. She calls me an old man, but I'm not like a partier. So I kind of like to park on the other side at 131, and I park by the bleachers by like where the photographer is. It's kind of quiet over there. Nobody bothers me. So there's not a lot of people, but as the rounds were going on, more people would start driving around, you know, and you know what they're doing. They're seeing who's left in, see who's working on what. But yeah, it was just a good feeling. Like every round come back, LaBoost was always there smiling. Tom Cable was there with us, and Anthony's daughter, Brittany, and my wife. And it was just, you know, every round you come back with a big smile, you know, like you're almost to the point where you dreamed about, you know. But after 8th round, and here's the thing, I knew the rear end started to make noise the round before because I'm parked on the other side of the track. So when I come back into the staging lanes for the next round, I have to make a hard 180-degree turn to get in the staging lanes, and it was starting to lock up. And I don't want to tell anybody. The broke rule never even crossed my mind. Like, man, if it breaks, I'll just get a new car and like jump in something else. I'm thinking like I got to race this car, but I don't want anyone to know. So LaBoost has never told me right now that the rear is broken, and I have never mentioned to him. So this is the second round as I'm turning in the lanes. The thing's like starting to lock up, you know, like with the spool as it's fighting itself. And don't ask me how, but the thing stayed together. But so when we pull in the lanes for round 9, I have to run the bottom bulb guy, Brian. I don't even know how you say his last name. They say Cerruti, but it ends in a U, so I don't know if that's how it really is pronounced.
A run worth many, many thousands of dollars right here. Both lined up side by side. Red light start for Cerruti. So it's going to be Cisco. Hits the tree for 29, and Cisco takes it to the stripes, 632.8 at 99 miles an hour. Steve Cisco is going to the final round of the door car category. Cerruti was 10 red, 638.6 on his 635 dial-in.
And everywhere he goes, he's great off the bottom, but they always say Cerruti, but I feel like it's not spelt that way. So I don't know if we're saying it wrong or if it's just wrong on a ticket, but anyway, not that I don't. I mean, obviously, I know he's a badass. He's off the bottom, but when you run somebody off the bottom, you never want to risk red lighting anyway, because I know there's some badass bottom bulbers like Nick or something, but you always want to make sure. So I'm not going to take any out of the box from the last round. So I was just 9, and actually it looks like I put 2 thou in. So I put 2 thou in against him, and I remember missing the tree a little, but I also was dialed up against him. I was just on the 27 or 28, and we're dialed at 31. He's dialed 635, but it was another one of them perfect scenarios. He's 10 red in front of me. I missed the tree and was 29, which I believe is my worst light in a couple days. I think I was 30 once earlier in a week. And it looks like I was 2 thou slower than the buy run. So, I mean, I was running pretty much what we thought we could run. And I dropped it to 99 miles an hour, and I was 18 thou over. But he lifted too. He only went 638 at 100 miles an hour. So I don't know what he could have run. So if he's 00 and I'm 29, I don't want to say I'm a guaranteed loser, because I am holding some. So I don't know if I'm close to him and he could run under. Am I going to push him out, or is he going to drop? If he drops, he beats me, kind of thing. But I definitely wasn't going to be wide open no matter how the race played out. But yeah, so that was a good one there also, because by winning that round, it's $100,000 for the semis. So there's 4 of us left, and they stopped us on the return road just to do a check for electronics, or so they looked on their dashboard. They had dragsters off, the panels off the dragsters, just looking for any suspicious, whatever, cheating, whatever you wanted to call it. But I just remember 4 of us down there. It's a pretty good feeling when there's only 4 left and there's 1,000 people at the racetrack still watching. So once we all passed, I went back to the trailer. I got fuel. I went back in the lanes, and this and the final were probably the scariest runs for me. Other one, I did drop that other guy earlier, but this run here was probably the scariest because, like I said, this is the final of the door cars. Hemmerline, what's his name? I believe it was Jason Hemmerline. Yeah, and I think it was like an Olds Cutlass, but he's dialed 580s. That's not a horrible spot for me, but looks like I'm dialed at 29. So in my mind, I could go 1 or 2 under. I'm tightening my dialing up a little bit as the night goes through, it looks like. And I left the box alone, and I was 18. He was 19. And
both cars locked in. Wheels up for Cisco, as they always are. They leave within a single thou as they get to the finish line stripe. It will be Steve Cisco. Cisco goes 30 with a 1 on a 29 dial as Jason Hemmerline breaks out. Cisco is 18 on the tree for the win. Hemmerline was 19 on the tree. Then he goes 584.5 on a 586 dial, but he took 24 down at the finish line. He took about 4 feet down there, and that freed Steve Cisco up for a trip to the richest final round he will ever be in his entire life.
Until maybe next year.
He was passing me, I knew I had to fight to get there first, and that's a good feeling and a bad feeling at the same time. The good feeling is I felt like I hit the tree. I don't think I'm late, and I know I could run under my dial, or hoping I could run under my dial. So with him being able to go around me, it's a good feeling in one aspect, being that he shouldn't be, and it's a bad feeling knowing that I'm going to drop him, and my only choice is if he runs under. It's my only hope, and that's exactly what happened. I was 18, and I wound up going 1 over with a 1 on the brakes, and he was 19, and he was 15 thou under, so he was way under, and he got there by 24, and that was when that win light came on. That one was cool, like that, you know what I mean? Like, you're into the final of the biggest race ever, and maybe for a while, who knows when there'll be something bigger than that, but that was something to be proud of. Like that 10th, that's crazy to say, the 10th win light in that race, but yeah, to make it to the final. And Hunter was the semi with Swain, and I didn't even know who Bill Swain was. I knew he was a local guy. They say he does real well every year, but I never remember racing with him. I didn't know who he was. So, not that I care at this point who I'm racing, but and here it is. Here I'm saying that he was a better draw for me, but that's sick to say because he was double entered till like the ladder rounds or to the split rounds. And if you listen to the packages the guy had was insane. Like he deserved to win the race. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you look, he's 4 package and 5 package and 8 package, and he's beating guys with 5 packages. And I think Hunter was 12 package when he when he lost. So I give Swain a ton of credit. The guy was he was a killer. So other than me winning the race, he actually would have earned it. Like he deserved it. But I'm kind of glad that I took it. Like I said, I was never nervous at any point, and I was, you know, I believed I was going to win. Like, I mean, I felt like I don't care what runs you had the round before. You know, obviously he kept laying runs down, like, and even in the final, he wasn't bad, but it was just one of the things. I felt like I was going to win, and I remember coming back to the trailer, and Little Labuse asked me, he's like, "You want to do anything with the money in the final?" And I said, I really don't think so, because I wasn't even thinking about how much it was to win. And I think at the time it was like $493.5 is what it was for first place or to win. And I said, I don't think I want to do anything because I'm content with losing and getting $250,000. You know, that's split that with Anthony. I mean, that's 125 grand ain't bad for, you know, a guy that works at a salvage yard. So it was one of them things where I don't think I want to make a split because I wasn't even thinking of the price jump or the value of what money was. And I remember pulling in the lanes, and Swain was in the lanes already. He had a couple guys around. I believe he was in the lanes. But either way, Tommy Cable was with me, and I really didn't want anyone around. It was Labuse, Cable, and the girls. And the first thing they said is, "You want to do anything with the money?" And I said, "Well, I really don't." And before I could even say anything, one of their crew guys said, "We got $743,500. And like when he said that, I was like, "Holy shit!" Like that's almost $1 million. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy. So it was just one of them things where then they said, "How about we just do this?" And that's what we agreed on. To where I think the final numbers were 400 and then 343.5, which some people even told me afterwards that we were crazy to race for that kind of money. Like they said, "Man, you still raced one round for like $60-something thousand." And I'm like, I was content on racing for the $250,000 almost. So, but yeah, it's just crazy to be able to win that kind of money doing something fun that you want to do in a race car. The game plan in the final, I told John, I said, we were just going to 27. I said, I feel the game plan is we're going to take a couple out of the box. We're going to try and be somewhere around 10 on the tree. And my goal was to be able to go, I was hoping I could go a mid 27. And I told him, I said, it's obviously the first dragster I'm racing all day. And if he could beat me if I'm 10 and I could go a couple thou under, even if I don't have to lift. My plan was to dial at 28. That was the game plan. Dial at 28 and hope we could go to 27. And even if I don't have to lift, I wasn't gonna. And the plan was, if I'm 10 and a couple thou under, or if I got lucky and it was dead on, if he beats that, he beats it. But that was my game plan going in. And Labuse was on that same, plan with me. He agreed that that was the right call. And I remember pulling into the burnout. It feels like you're driving through, 300 people to get into the burnout, which is kind of rude because most of them don't get out of your way. You're there to watch you guys, but they wouldn't let you in the burnout kind of thing. But I remember getting in the burnout, and you could feel like there's no lights coming through the car anymore because there's people standing around you, like there's no lights coming through the glass. And it was just one of them things. We staged almost at the same exact time. We put the bottom bulb on almost, instantly, or not instantly, but simultaneously. And it came on. I felt like I hit the tree good. And when it left, it was just one of them things. When it left, it felt better than it did all day. and the wheels came down, and at the 3:30, I was turning around, I'm watching them, and I just said to myself that I'm going to get there first, and I feel like I'm going fast again for some reason, so I'm going to drop. In my mind, I said I got to kill 200s.
Both cars pre-staged now for the richest final round in the history of organized drag racing. Here we go. Monster wheel stand for Cisco. Swain is 004. Bill Swain of Iona, Michigan. No, it goes to Cisco. 628. He's dead on one. He's 11 on the tree. Swain breaks out, taking 13th out at the finish line stripe. Bill Swain breaks out after having left the starting line first. Unreal.
And I got down there, and I think I killed 3 miles an hour and was dead on with a 1. And I just remember the scoreboard lit up, and I just laughed like holy shit, like that just worked. And at that point, I don't know what light is, but I felt like I hit the tree good. And I made a K turn, and it was a pretty cool thing turning around. I always said that's what you're going to do. You're going to come back up the track if you won something like that. And all the lights had shut off because they had fireworks going off already. And coming back with the car on a dark track with just the headlights on and the fireworks was one of the coolest feelings I'll ever have. Like, there was people hanging over the fence yelling at me. There was people in the bleachers hollering at me. When I made it back towards the Christmas tree, I jumped out of the car, and my wife was right there, so I was able to grab her. I could hear all my friends in the stands that were betting all night, screaming and hollering, so it, and then a couple alcohol baths and hard liquor showers. That was the only thing I regret about it is my New Jersey language in some of the interviews that Motor Mania got mad at me for. But I always say I'm from New Jersey. I try to be as nice as possible, but we're from the Northeast, so we're not all perfect. But I regret that a little bit. But if you want a real interview, you want a fake one. So that was a real one. But yeah, it was one of the coolest feelings, and I don't know if anything will ever top that, but I'm going to try to win something this year. That's his prayer card from his funeral. A lot of us keep them in our race cars from up here. That one actually, there is one in the Chevy too, because Anthony was good friends with him, but the one that was in the picture was Tom Dauber, was a real good friend with Jim, and I've known Tom since I was a little kid. And when I was going rounds, he went back and took his out of his car, out of his trailer, and put it in his pocket just in case I won. So I remember before the winner's circle picture, he came over and gave me a hug, and he gave me the card for the picture. Well, I think like I said, we went back to the trailer probably around 2 a.m, and my wife Lindsay, Brittany Bertozzi, Labuse, Cable, and Terrell Sinkler, who's a friend of ours from Maryland. He came over, and I know Hunter Patton stopped by for a while, but basically it was late, so you're not going to cook steaks. We got a race in the morning too. Earlier in the day, I think Johnny and Brittany went to the gas station and bought like pizza out of the dollar pizzas out of the freezer. So we had like some cold chicken wings, some pizza, some brownies. We had like a smorgasbord of bad food at about 3 a.m. But yeah, like I said, I'm not a big partier, so we didn't stay up and drink all night. And I'd say by 3:30 in, I was back in the motorhome. My wife took a shower and went to bed, and I said, well, I'm going to sit on the couch and just respond to text messages and Facebook messages. And I think I did that till like 5 or 5:30 in the morning. And I went and laid in bed with her, and it just, for some reason, somebody wanted to start their car up at like 7:30 in the morning, I guess. Someone drove by and I heard it. So like 8 a.m, I'm up, I took a shower, and I went back outside and took the car out of the trailer, warmed it up. And so now I had 2 entries for $100,000. I'm not going to just give it up, not race. And my first entry, I went out there and I never even staged. I got timed out. I ran gauge. We were like a heads up dial, and I never even staged. So it kind of pissed me off because not only obviously you don't want to lose any of them, but like that, even if I red lighted, at least I would have got a free time shot for my next entry. So I didn't even, that was just a waste. I woke up early, got in line at 8 o'clock in the morning for nothing, basically. But I'm not going to complain. The rest of the day turned out pretty good too. But Bobby's car was ridiculous. Like from the day I've borrowed that thing, it's so good. That one's on alcohol. Anthony's is on gas, but the Camaro was ridiculous how consistent it was. The funny part is going into the weekend, the first 100 grander is the one I think I lost, like it might have been like 6th round, and I think I was 13 and took 000 and lost. And I remember telling my wife, I got back, I'm like, this was our chance to make money for the week, like, and start out on the high side. I said, what's the chance of me going 6 rounds tomorrow? And then next thing you know, you're winning $1 million, and then the next day. But the first day was the day I'm like, man, I hope I didn't just blow it all now. But I drove awesome that week, and I had the right people next to me, and it helps having 2 entries, because when you do lose, you know, you hopefully that's your get that one out of the way kind of thing. But yeah, I just had all the right people. I had good lights when I needed them. I had a ton of teen lights, like 14, 15, 17s. I'm not saying that's, you know, I don't consider that a great light, because my goal is normally like try like to be 5 to 12 is my goal a lot of times. But when you're racing rounds where they're hours apart, you also don't want to, you know, some people can't string them along. So I wish they were a little bit better, but I had all the right people. I mean, I don't know if I got treed at all other than in the final at $1 million. I think all of these, I don't know if I ever got treed with the, you know, in those races. But yeah, I'm the right place, right time, drove good, made the right decisions. And I made the comment on one of someone, either Luke's podcast maybe or Drag Champ, but you're younger than me, but back in the 90s with Michael Jordan, there's the one clip they always show when they talk about Michael Jordan, and it was one of the games where he couldn't miss anything, and he was running back up like half court, and he just like shrugged his shoulders, like, because everything he did, the ball just fell through the hole. And it was like one of them, like, to me, the finish line just looked like it was this huge, like I couldn't get it wrong. Like it was like a big magnifying glass, you know, like everything was so easy to see. After the winner circle picture, when we had to, they told us to get the car out of the way for Bill to take his. I was still going to hang out up there. Everybody, we were all, you know, not partying, but, you know, still a group of people. And when we went to push the car out, we just went to roll it backwards, and it was locked up. So I rolled 2 inches and stopped. So we had to shake it back and forth a little bit to break it free. So I couldn't run that the next day. So that's why I ran the Camaro twice. But I did drive it back to the trailer. I think I won. It was probably, the semis here was 11:14. I almost think it was almost just at midnight, which was pretty neat. I think it was like midnight on the 4th of July, 5th kind of thing. But at about 2 o'clock in the morning, we drove it back to the trailer and just parked it. And then that following week, they took it apart, and Anthony sent me a picture, and it's missing like, you know, 2 or 3 full teeth and like 6 or 4 more like half teeth, you know, like all in one section of the ring gear. So there's no way it was going to make another run, or if I ever staged on that spot, I'm sure it would have just broke it. So, I mean, that was one of the luckiest things that I guess I'll ever have happen to me. Obviously, for that week, obviously my wife is one of my biggest supporters, and she allows me to do it. She's on the couch. She said, "Thank God I mentioned her, because I always forget her." But she knows that she's number one. And obviously Anthony Bertozzi. I mean, if it wasn't for him, Bobby McCluskey, he loaned me the Camaro. Tommy Cable, John LaBouche Jr., and Brittany were kind of like our crew, parked together, and they brought the car out for me. The guys that helped me on my own personal cars is Scott Albrecht. He's like my brother, but he'll fix anything and he'll work on anything I need done. Gary Eitel's another one. Big Murph and Joe Albrecht does a lot of work for me also. And then there's, you know, companies, Competitive Suspension. He's helped me out with shocks. Scott Lemon with Drag Race Solutions and Drag Race Results. Jegs has always been fair with me, and they take care of me. FTI, Biondo Racing Products, I've known them forever. No matter what I need, I get through them, and they always take care of me. So the whole family. I'm going to thank Mickey Thompson and Hoosier, only because they were on each car, and I run both. So until somebody wants to give me free tires, I'm just going to thank both. I can be persuaded, though, with free tires to not run the other. And, of course, SFG and Kyle and everybody that works for him. I know just by winning, everybody's, oh, well, you won, that's why you love the guy. But the way they ran that race, with the races being run over 2 days, it was like a perfect setup. Like, people complain about having so many cars, but I don't care if you had 1,000 cars. The way he ran that, I know weather, we got lucky. So if there was a day with bad weather, it could have been a downfall. But the way they ran that race at Michigan this year, it was perfect. You know, like, everybody started second round on another day, and at that point, it's like, you win, you stay in. You lose, you're done. I just feel like that was a perfect scenario. I'd hate to see what happened if he had weather come in, but you know, that's always a chance. But it was a perfect weekend. I'm just happy that I was the last one standing and won the most money that I could ever imagine winning at the racetrack. Like, when I think back about it, the things that make me feel the most special about it was just the people that I've raced with that were there. You know, you're talking like John LaBouse, Gary and Troy Williams, Underwood, the Folk family, the people that I've raced with since I've started racing, for the hugs and the words that they all said it was pretty cool to know that those type of people who've won everything, that know that they were rooting for you and knew that you could do it, that kind of thing. It was kind of cool that, you know, they were, I don't want to say looking up to me at that point, but they were all on it. Truthfully, I feel like a lot of people were proud. You know, a lot of times when somebody wins, you have people congratulate you, but I think that's only because they're supposed to. I feel like a lot of people that congratulate me, I felt like they meant it, and it made me feel good that I really felt that was their love of my second family, like the drag racing.